Now that we've talked about fractions and decimals, we're now ready to go take a look at one of the most problematic representations that we have, and it's a percentage. Percentages show up a lot. People love to work with percentages, and people work with percentages incorrectly all the time. And that's going to be one of the things that we're going to take a look at next week is what's wrong with percentages? How do we work with them? Why are they so problematic? So quick definition is a percentage is a way of viewing everything as a situation, viewing every situation as a splitting something into 100 equal parts and collecting the sum of its parts. So if we take a look at what a percentage would look like as a fraction, so if we have some sort of percentage, it would be n over 100, right? So if it was something like, I don't know, 5%, it would be 5 over 100. Again, one of the difficult things or one of the problematic things is something, what happens if it's not 1 whole percent? What happens if something it's like 0.25% of a whole thing? A lot of people want to go ahead and turn this into a decimal right away. This would be, as a decimal, it would be 0.25 parts of 100. So we need to make sure that we're really, really careful with that. So actually, I'll keep these two examples right here, and we'll keep. So 5% would be 5 out of 100. Again, we could simplify that fraction down, and 0.25% would be 0.25 out of 100. Again, this is problematic as well. I'm not a huge fan of decimals within fractions. That's not typically how we're used to seeing that. But we got it, so we're going to deal with it. What would this look like as a decimal? N divided by 100 would be 0. Let's just say let's actually change this up. Let's say that we have something like, I don't know, I'm going to just use two numbers, some decimal, d as a decimal, so it would be 0.d. That would be, this is kind of the way it's presented in the book, this would be d percent, right? So we have our tenths and our hundredths, and then we convert that over to a percentage. So over here, 5%, this is another one that people really struggle with. It would not be, it's so tempting. People just go ahead and say that's this. That is not the case. This is, we need to put that in the hundredths place. Remember, this is the tenths place. This is the hundredths place. So this is how we would represent that. Furthermore, this is another one that people really struggle with. 0.25% as a decimal. Well, that's actually, there isn't anything in the tenths place. There isn't anything into the hundredths place. This is in the thousandth place. So 0.25% written or represented as a decimal would be 0.0025. It's very common that people screw that up. As a percentage, this would look like, again, so this would be 5%. This would be 0.25%. And then, so one important thing to note, we cannot do arithmetic with percentages. So here's a basic example of this. When I find 20% of 50, this is really what most people try to do. Well, we can't just say 20 times 50 equals 100, so 20% of 50 equals 100, because that's not what we know, that's wrong. You can't do math with percentages. They just don't work like that. So we have to go with this, we have to approach this a couple different ways. We could look at it as, the best way to consider this is say, okay, this is 20 parts out of 100, then we will times that by 50. In the previous example, we know that we can multiply 20 times 50, which gives us 1,000 over, I'm going to check that, 1 times 100 is 100. And then 1,000 divided by 100 is 10. So 20% of 50 would be 10. Now, we actually could have probably said, okay, 20 over 100, we can simplify this and we can make 20 over 100 what goes into both of them. We can divide both of those by, I don't know, 10, which would give us 2/10, which then we could divide by 2. Actually, let's go back here. We can divide the top and the bottom of this one by 20. 20 divided by 20 is 1. 100 divided by 20 is 5. And we could have looked at it like this. It's a simplified fraction. 1 times 50 is 50. 5 times 1 is 5. 50 divided by 5 is 10. The other way we can approach this is write 20% as a decimal. That 2 is in the tens place, so we're going to put it in the tenths place here. And 0.2 times 50, 0.2 times 50 is 10. And again, we get 10. So I just want to stress, we cannot do math with the whole percentage values, these numbers right here. We need to turn them into either a fraction or a decimal. All right. Last one is, I've completed 212 of the 413 problems in my homework assignment. Am I halfway complete? Well, we can look at this, and we can take a look at this in two different ways. 212 over 413, is that greater than 1/2 or less than 1/2? At this point, it might be most helpful to turn this in, divide this up. And when we divide this up, we get 0.5133171,913, and it's not even done. It's going to keep going, right? This is the problem with decimals, is now at this point, most people would say, okay, I'm going to round this to 0.51. And I would say, yes, you're over halfway done. But can we say exactly what percent they are done? Is this person 51% done? No, they're more than 51% done. Are they 51? What would this be? What percentage would this be? Again, you can see, just like with decimals, we have some inaccuracy here. We have some issues with this process of rounding where we're going to be creating errors. And as those errors are things that we work with further, we're going to be further compounding our errors and becoming less accurate.